Now, one character I want to make sure that you spend some time really reading about in Chapter 4 is that opening travel narrative, that opening saga of the amazing character forever known as Qin Shi Huangdi, the first emperor of China, reigning from around 221 BCE to 200 BCE. No surviving image of him himself survives, but that doesn't mean he didn't leave a legacy of artistic works. So check out a few of these things I wanted to highlight that our textbook talks about a little bit, but I want to expand on just in a very few minutes, just to really show some of this historical element and the amazing artifacts that come out of the reign of Shi Huangdi. So in that there's no surviving imagery of Shi Huangdi himself, that doesn't mean there's not amazing representations. Like this 18th century wonderful depiction of what was thought about Shi Huangdi's rule by 18th century Confucian scholars and leaders of the time. What do you see in this picture here? Well, in the bottom left-hand corner, you see an interesting scene going on where he allegedly ordered the burning of books that were critical to his policies, showing the importance and the power of writing. But also on the other side, those people aren't just playing in the mud there. That depicts another famous story and incident where Shi Huangdi ordered the execution by burying alive hundreds of Confucian scholars who were critical of his reign. Now, another important imagery of Shi Huangdi surviving artifacts is, of course, the terracotta army of Shi Huangdi. Now, this is an amazing underground world that emerged only recently in the past decades, really. This largest pit that in this picture here is now covered with a canopy and conveys something of the massive size of the undertaking. This is just a small part of Shi Huangdi's burial mound, where he has the ceramic army with horses and chariots, faced with mountains created. And even by the time he died, it was still being built. This massive complex, underground complex, this whole world within a mountainside and underground was still being built well after his death. One historian in the 1st century talked about this amazing undertaking, and he said the following. He said, as soon as the first emperor became king of Qin, excavations and buildings had been started at Mount Li. Well, after he won the empire, more than 700,000 conscripts from all parts of the country worked there. They dug through the 3 subterranean streams, pouring molten copper for the outer coffin, and the tomb was filled with palaces. These are full-size palaces, full-size pavilions, some of them half-size as well, and offices, as well as fine vessels, precious stones, and rarities. Artisans were ordered to fix up crossbows so that any thief breaking in would be shot. Think of Indiana Jones and him breaking in and all those things, all these booby traps. All the country's streams, the Yellow River, the Yangtze, were represented in quicksilver, which is mercury, and by some mechanical means made to flow into a miniature ocean. The heavens' constellations were above, and the regions of the earth below. The candles were made of whale oil to ensure the burning for the longest possible time. So it's not just these terracotta, cool little play soldiers. This was a whole empire built underground that replicated both Shi Huangdi's empire on earth, but at the same time showed his command in both realms together, a blurring of the line. Now, an important part of this as well is that Shi Huangdi's tomb showed this culture of where the living and the dead formed one culture. The deceased, the living, all formed one parallel society, complete with walls, palaces, cemeteries, demons, spirits, soldiers, administrators, entertainers, calendars, texts, luxurious objects. The tomb was filled with these things, but also his life was filled with these things. It surrounded them in life and death. Shi Huangdi would rule forever with his vast domain. Although maybe the visible, the living, can't see it, they truly believed that this was parallel to both. That what you can't see doesn't necessarily negate what you can control, and he was able to control both these worlds.